So welcome. Thank you so much for joining tonight and really being the show. Mackenzie might have told you that we will just sort of have a few words at the beginning pretty briefly, and then we're going to hand it over to TSO to guide us through the rest of it. With that, I'm going to welcome my colleague Neil up here to talk about advising before we advance to the next slide. So Neil, it's all yours.
Great. Thanks, Will. And I'll echo Will in just saying welcome to everybody. Thanks for tuning in today and considering Penn. My name is Neil McDowell. I'm an advisor in the College of Arts and Sciences. So I'm just going to say a few brief words about advising and general support resources on campus, not for very long because we want to get to the questions and all. And I know that there are many of you in the group who are admitted to the college. So I can talk a little bit about college advising, but there are also those of you coming to the other three schools, Wharton, Engineering, and Nursing. And so hopefully some of what I say at least is also relevant to those schools as well. We have a really great advising system set up. We connect you with an advisor pretty much from almost the moment you decide to come. We in the college, we're going to send a welcome email to everybody in roughly mid-June with the name of an advisor, and we are ready to help you hit the ground running. You can immediately contact your advisor. You can start talking about what your credits are going to look like when they transfer over, how you're going to get requirements done, and also what you're going to register for, which you can do immediately. As soon as you get access to our system, you can register for courses for this fall. And we know from our past experience that transfer students really want to do that, kind of get that fast start. So we are happy to help with that. You will then have that advisor connected to you throughout your time here, really, to help you figure things out, to find new and exciting options academically, and to make sure you get done on time. And then I'll just say, and maybe will get to more of this as well, but there's a tremendous range of other places on campus aside from the advising office where you can get help, get answers to questions. The Weingarten Center has tutoring, has learning specialists, have all kinds of people to help you. There are a bunch of other offices on campus that can provide you various kinds of support. So I think the motto that we have is you should never leave a question unasked, because there is somebody on campus who can help answer it for you, who can point you to the right person. And we really want you to come to us with those questions. So I'm going to leave it at that and turn it back to Will. But I'd encourage you to ask questions about academics here at Penn, and and also the students who are here will do our best to answer you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Neil. And this slide is just a quick, this slide just represents a couple of resources. The top section are some of the advising contacts, including Neil, for the different schools, the college, nursing, engineering, and Wharton. There are other advisors too, but these are some of them that you can reach out to. TSO later we'll share some other resources and ways to communicate and get some questions answered as well. I have Adrena Owens here as well, the preliminary credit evaluation, a person who leads that. I want to reiterate that what you've received at this point, the preliminary credit evaluation, that is just that. It is preliminary. It's not official. There's an official process that'll happen later, and we'd be happy to address questions that you may have about that. But if you did have questions about the preliminary credit evaluation, which Adrena does, and is sort of an estimate of what we think you would probably receive in terms of credit, that's what that is for, and she can address questions related to that preliminary credit evaluation, just acknowledging again that the official process happens later and is run through each of the schools. In terms of next steps for admission, the admitted student portal, that's where you received your decision. That is also where you can accept your spot in the class. So when you decide between now, if you haven't already done so, between now and next Wednesday, because next Wednesday, May 31st, is the deadline to confirm your enrollment. You can do that in your admitted student portal, the same place that you saw your admission decision. There are going to be some other events that you can sign up for there. The admitted student network, many of you are on that. That's another platform for communication. And of course, TSO has some really robust and well-used platforms that they're going to share in just a moment as well, the group me I know in particular. But before we kick it over to TSO to lead us through the rest of this event, we do want to say, just being from admission, between now and next Wednesday, that is the time frame to get these questions answered, to make your final decision, and to let us know by the 31st of May if you intend to accept your spot in the class. And then beginning June 1, there will be other programming for students who do plan to come on course registration and other things, which you'll learn more about. But with that, let me also say one thing too. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll have a lot of live discussion from our students over the course of the next hour or so, and then of course the breakouts as well. But feel free to pop questions into the chat. We have some staff here who will do our best to answer those. Neil is here, and so feel free to use that for questions, as well as listening in to the live conversation that will start soon. And with that, I'm going to welcome a representative from the Transfer Student Organization, Mackenzie, to share a little bit about TSO.
Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are all doing well. I first want to thank Will and Neil for their presentations and all the work that goes in behind the scenes to make such an event happen today. And to introduce myself, my name is Mackenzie Sleeman. I'm a PPE major transferring from Villanova University, and I serve as the Vice President of Admissions for TSO. Usually when I begin these presentations, I like to give a huge TSO welcome to everyone on the call. But today is not a usual day. Today is the Transfer Open House. And what does that mean? It means you are here because you got accepted into Penn. Congratulations, everybody. On behalf of the transfer community, not only do I want to welcome you here, but I want to congratulate you on all the hard work that you did to get to this moment. We are all so very proud of you, and I hope that this information session can be insightful for you in learning more about being a transfer here at Penn. So next slide, Will. Thank you. And so joining me today is TSO board and some special guests. You know, the whole goal of this session is about you. And so today we picked transfers that represent all 4 schools, different pre-professional programs, as well as an international student, so we can reflect your journey here in coming to Penn within this presentation tonight. And so more importantly than just a broad congratulations, we want to congratulate you on your journey. In a way, I think of it kind of as a roadmap. You decided to transfer, you applied, you filled out those supplements, you got those recommendations on top of all the schoolwork you had to do, and you were accepted. The University of Pennsylvania wants you here, and so do we. But now, most importantly, you decide, is Penn the place for me? And, you know, in this journey, I think that the transfer community is the most unique here at the University of Pennsylvania because we understand the journey in coming to Penn. We understand the roadmap. We understand the challenges, the hardships, and also all the successes that you have. And we want to be there on every step of the way to help you through this process and to really help you become who you want to be as a person. Next slide, Will. And so this is just a broad overview of what we're going to talk about tonight, and we're just going to jump straight into it. So what is the Transfer Student Organization? The Transfer Student Organization is a group of transfer students dedicated to support your transition to here to Penn, both academically and socially. One thing that I think is so unique about the Transfer Student Organization here at Penn is that the university entrusts us not only with a lot of responsibility, but also financial resources and to help you succeed here at this university. The first thing that you're going to be introduced to is the new student orientation programming, where we are in charge of, we host small group dinners, trips to local sites, as well as educational sessions. So in taking your journey, how do we apply your journey to you becoming a transfer here at Penn? We do that through the new student orientation programming, which you were probably familiar with at your previous institution when you were a freshman. But some other things that we like to do as well is community, social, and professional events. We all love formals. We all love holiday events, and also something that we do as well as alumni panels. And I want to keep harping on this point about your journey and helping you on your journey. your roadmap doesn't just end here at Penn, it continues outside of Penn. So we want to provide you with the pre-professional support to talk to transfers who became lawyers, who became doctors, who became nurses. And we want to connect you to these people to help you succeed. And one thing I think is most important, and that one of our panelists, Miet, will probably touch upon, is mentorship. We connect you through an algorithm to a current transfer, either a junior or senior, who is very familiar with the Penn environment. When I think of being a transfer, you're kind of just dropped into a river that's already flowing. You're a transfer, you're a sophomore or junior, and you're coming into this environment while all these people have been here already. And so we want to connect you with mentors that walked so you could run. They will help you learn about Penn. They'll help you connect the clubs. They'll help you, choose which classes are most fitting for your program, as well as which will cater to what you want out of your experience at Penn. And we do this as well as through paid opportunities by the university where you and your mentor could grab lunch, coffee, and I think it's just great. And these are ways in which we apply your identity, your journey in coming to Penn, and we try to help you succeed as much as we can. And so who are we? So that's what we are, but who are we? So we have the honor of having the executive board here with us tonight. We have Joyce and Shannon as our co-presidents, and we also have Joanna as our executive vice president. These students are the backbone to your transition here at Penn because they plan your new student orientation as well as program all the events that will happen in your first year at the university. And so it's an honor to have them here with us tonight, and we're so lucky to have them as our executive board. And again, a lot of the actual board is here with us tonight, including me, as well as some special guests, including an engineering student, a Warren student, and an international student. And next slide. And so what unique opportunities do we have here at Penn? The whole Penn experience as being a transfer is unique, but let me give you two other important opportunities that you should know about when you're thinking about committing to the University of Pennsylvania. First is the transfer living community. Some of you may have recognized the transfer living community through researching online or through the GroupMe. And when I think of the transfer living community, it is an opportunity for you to be grounded at Penn. It's an opportunity for you to live with your transfer peers. And what sounds more like home than living on a floor with people that you know, people that you can just knock on any door and they will invite you into their suite, or just being able to say hi to anyone. Some of my most memorable times at Penn is when it's late at night and I'm coming home from doing some kind of work and I just knock on some doors and I just talk to my friends on my way to the dorm. Do I get to my dorm room? No, it becomes 3 a.m. and I'm still talking to people when I have to really be going to sleep. And that just goes to show you that the transfer living community grounds you here at the University of Pennsylvania. There's 10,000 students, there's multiple dorms, but where do you feel like you have a home? That's the transfer living community. And we highly recommend that you try living there. Another very important opportunity that we have that is new this year, that is a pilot program this year, something that I've worked on all year, is the Sophomore Transfer Critical Writing Seminar. The Sophomore Transfer Critical Writing Seminar is a way to bridge your identity to the academic experience here at Penn. All sophomore transfers are required to take a writing seminar, and we believe that the Sophomore Transfer Critical Writing Seminar is a way for you to engage yourself academically with your peers and really have a class that's catered towards your experience, your journey. You're not only going to be placed in a class with just freshmen, which has traditionally been the way that writing seminars have been done. You're in a transfer critical writing seminar with only transfer students, with a professor that understands your experience. You know how to write a cover letter, you know how to write a resume, and this professor knows that. And so you will be able to excel in this class because your experience is heard and you will be able to excel by sharing your perspective. Now, how can we help with XCAT and course registration? Right after you commit to the University of Pennsylvania, I will be hosting 2 information sessions, one for XCAT and one for class registration. A lot of you guys in the group me have been great at asking questions, and we hope that these 2 Zoom sessions will help you learn more about what XCAT and how to apply for classes, and some tips and tricks along the way that we thought we should have known when we were coming to Penn in the first place. And we do this right after you commit because we know how valuable your time is. We know that you guys want to get started with applying the classes, and you want to know what classes that you have in the bank through XCAT, those classes that have been approved that will be going on your transcript, so you can figure out your fall schedule. That's most important. Some transfers sometimes have to go through the challenge of taking a class again because they received their credit too late. And so we hope that with this XCAT tutorial and this class registration tutorial, you're able to jumpstart the XCAT and class registration process and be able to get all the things you need to know before you step on campus and just succeed. And so how can you connect with us? I highly recommend, if you haven't joined yet, to please scan this QR code to join the transfer GroupMe. There are more than 20 plus current transfers in that GroupMe that are available to answer your questions at any time. And some of you may know I answered some questions. A lot of the panelists in here have answered some questions. And this is the main forum for you to ask questions and meet your fellow transfers that are coming into Penn with you this year. Additionally, I want to touch on Penn Course Review. You can see that in the first link under academic resources. We highly recommend that you use Penn Course Review in deciding what classes to take. Penn Course Review kind of acts as a Rate My Professor, but it's made by Penn students. As well as we recommend Penn Course Plan, which is kind of like a schedule builder that you may have had access to at your previous university. This will help you plan out time collisions between classes and be able to have your multiple schedules at your disposal when you're choosing your finalized one. And lastly, I'd like to recommend Penn Clubs. Penn Clubs is a way for you this summer to learn about all the clubs here at Penn and be able to know where you would like to take yourself when you first step on campus. And again, these are all sources for you to take what you've done so far on your journey and being accepted in the Penn and be able to kickstart where you want to go once you step on campus. And so thank you for listening to my presentation. Thank you for being here tonight at the Transfer Open House. Again, congratulations, you guys. We're so proud of you guys. Transferring is a huge challenge, and it's one that we recognize, and we hope that we can help you along the journey. So thank you, and now we'll be going into the panel discussion. So we're going to first start off with a pretty broad question, and that is going to come from Amelia. So Amelia, can you speak about some of the differences from transferring from a small liberal arts university to a huge research university like Penn? And introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, hi. My name's Amelia. I am a rising junior, so I transferred last fall, and I transferred from a really small school called McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota. What else am I supposed to say? Oh, I'm a cellular and molecular bio major, and my hometown is San Francisco, California. So currently, it's only afternoon for me, so I'm still a little bit awake. Okay, as far as transferring from like a smaller liberal arts school to a bigger school, I think it goes into like two broad categories of academic and social. I'm going to start with the maybe more monotonous stuff of the academic things. And it kind of boils down to, I'd say, like three really big differences. The first is obviously class size. My liberal arts school, I think my biggest class last year had 40 people in it. My biggest class this year had 500 people in it. And that's not even kind of like the biggest class you'll get at Penn. So I'd say like you're going from a much smaller class size where you know your professor really well, you know all your classmates, you probably know everybody by name, to an environment where you're sitting in a lecture hall and maybe sometimes you make eye contact with your professor and it's always a little bit awkward, but then you smile, you know, like it's kind of just a different vibe. I at first had a really hard time with it because I think I relied a lot my freshman year on the relationships I built with my professors. But I think the thing I had to learn was just because the class is bigger does not mean that can't happen. And it is a little bit scarier, but within that first week, go to a professor's office hours, go up after lecture, introduce yourself, get to know them, send an email. whatever you need to do to kind of still build that relationship. And I promise it will pay off when you're like in the middle of midterms and you don't understand a concept and you just need to like feel like you have that connection with your professor. So yeah, class sizes are kind of an adjustment, but nothing that I don't think you guys can handle. And honestly, lectures can sometimes be fun. And there's always a new person to meet, which is something I always like. The next thing I'd say is really different is probably like the use of ad drop. This is not true for all liberal arts colleges, but my school didn't really have an ad drop system. We technically did, but no one really used it. I would say learning ad drop was probably the biggest learning curve as far as registration for me coming to Penn. I kind of came into it with this idea of like, you didn't want to ad drop, like it was kind of like faux pod to have to like leave a class and choose a new one. That is not the case at all. It is honestly probably one of the best systems because it really allows you to kind of register for what you want to take and then kind of go and try things out and figure out what is feasible for you. I think coming into Penn, I did not balance my schedule at all. And then I was registered for a bunch of classes where I was like, this is going to be probably the hardest semester of my life. And if I'd kind of understood ad drop a little bit more and utilized it, I think I probably would have had an easier, more balanced first semester. So really like when Mackenzie sends out that class registration info session, really take advantage of ad drop. Don't be afraid to kind of sign up for some stuff that you might not necessarily end up taking. And really use that ad drop period to make sure that your semester is what you're excited for and what you want to be taking, as well as the stuff that you have to take, if it means like making up transfer credits or, completing major requirements. The third and final thing that I think is just very true to Penn specifically is the pre-professional culture. Penn is a pre-professional school. Many liberal arts colleges aren't. That's kind of their whole thing. So coming into Penn, I think I wasn't super prepared for like the everyone knowing what they were going to do with their life kind of question. And that is a gross generalization, but I think it is something that you should be prepared for. Is a lot of people kind of have an idea of what they want to do and they're here to study with that. That does not mean that you have to. It is completely okay to kind of not know what you want to do, especially coming from schools. And if you are from a liberal arts school where you kind of were challenged to do the opposite and explore a bunch of different things. So I'd say the pre-professional culture on one aspect is a little bit scary, but it also means that Penn has an abundance of resources for literally any career path that you could want to go down, which is something that I think a lot of liberal arts schools don't necessarily have, especially in your first 2 years. And that goes broader into like research opportunities and internships and clubs and all of that. And there's always someone, like Neil was saying, there's always someone who can answer your question. So those are kind of the three big, I'd say, academic differences. Socially and more just kind of everyday life wise, Penn is a bigger school. Like it is a pretty big school. There are more people, you will see more faces. That being said, weirdly, I see probably the same 150 people over and over. And so there's still a big part of the school that just kind of feels small and liberal artsy. And, I think for a lot of transfers, NSO is that period of time when you really meet the people that you will probably spend the most of, especially your first year with. And then you kind of meet new people in your classes. So just because it's big doesn't mean you won't find your group. And it might take a little bit of time and probably a little bit longer than it took at your smaller school when there were just kind of fewer options. But I promise it will happen. And it keeps happening. Like you keep joining new things and you keep doing like cooler and newer things. And then you meet new people in your new classes when the semester changes. So don't be afraid about kind of not finding your people right away because they will come. And going into that, there are also just so many more opportunities at Penn than there are usually at smaller schools. That goes like club wise, internship wise, kind of random social activity things wise, events, like all of it. And there's something almost, I'd say, every day, which sometimes can get overwhelming. So especially when club season comes around, we have an insane number of clubs on campus, and a lot of them do similar things. But even though it can get overwhelming, I would highly suggest just signing up for stuff. Like very few are a genuine commitment. So kind of just go and put yourself out there and really just try new things and who knows, like maybe you get the opportunity to do something that you never got to do at your smaller school. I did, and it has been genuinely one of the most awesome experiences. I've gotten to explore an entirely different side of like my academic and social and musical career that I never got to at my old school. And then the final thing, which is not necessarily true for everyone, but kind of combines both those things, is Penn is a big school. It'll take time to meet your people, and you are coming in after people have known each other for a while. So sometimes you feel a little bit behind, but don't be afraid to spend time alone. Honestly, like learning to spend time alone and learning kind of my boundaries as far as that was one of the most rewarding things I learned my sophomore year and my first year at Penn. And it was a little daunting at times because I was used to basically always having a bunch of people in my room and having the same exact schedule as all my friends and the same meal times and literally just always being surrounded by people. And at first it was really shocking to not have that anymore, but being able to like learn to be with myself, I think taught me a lot of valuable lessons for when I'm an adult and probably won't be surrounded by people all the time. So even though it's a little bit scary, I would say just kind of put your best foot forward and kind of dive into that fear and just really kind of try to take time for yourself, especially your first semester. It'll feel crazy and big. But yeah, so those are kind of the biggest differences between smaller arts and liberal arts, sorry. And then if you have any other questions about that, feel free to reach out to me on the group me, which you all should join because we all really want to answer your questions. Just a last little plug for the group me. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Thank you, Mackenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia. Such amazing points. So you're right. There's a lot going on at Penn. And so a question that I would like to ask Ryan, maybe we'll go to Ryan next. What's it like being a junior transfer? And you're just coming in, you have 2 years left. How do you feel like you compensate for the short amount of time you have at the university? And how did you balance all the new opportunities that you had at Penn with, managing your social life and things like that, which Amelia touched on as well.
So I'm not Ryan, but Ryan has been kicked out of the Zoom. So maybe let's do another question for now. And
sure.
Then
yeah, that's my bad. Okay, so.
Oh, actually, Ryan's back. Crazy turn of events.
Ryan, did you hear me ask the question? You can just jump right in.
No, I didn't, but it's about junior experience, right?
Yeah, just kick us off.
So hi, everyone. My name is Ryan. I was a junior transfer last year from Boston College. I'm majoring in political science and minoring in journalistic writing. And I am also a co-VP of mentorship with Miette. I've actually discussed this question with some of you in depth over GroupMe. So if you want a really long-winded answer, definitely reach out to me. I would love to discuss it. Firstly, I wanted to say it's definitely difficult the first semester feeling as though, oh my gosh, I really just left after 2 years of building friendships and being really involved on campus. And now this is a clean slate, but that's also very exciting. And I felt very welcomed by TSO. There's not many junior transfers. It's definitely more common for there to be sophomore transfers. But I found my people very easily with my mentor, who was also a junior, which I'm excited to pair you guys with people, and becoming friends with older transfers who also helped introduce me to non-transfers in my own class. I would say it wasn't very hard to make friends. People really like to learn more about the transfer experience. In the first week of classes, I introduced myself as a transfer, and people came up to me afterwards and were just wanting to know more and to help me out, which was really, really sweet. And I think symbolizes that people want to meet you and help you integrate on campus. I would also say something that scared me was getting involved in extracurriculars as a junior, because you're not viewed always in the same way. Lots of clubs kind of prefer underclassmen but I got very involved on campus and tried to kind of portray myself as, oh, this is my freshman experience here. Even though I'm a junior, I haven't been here for the past 2 years. And so I would say one way that I felt I had to overcompensate was getting involved on campus as early as possible, applying to as many things, dipping my toe into the water with new activities that I never did at my prior school. And that helped me a lot. So as soon as clubs open up, I recommend applying and going to activity fairs. Something I was also worried about was rushing. We're going to touch on Greek life later more so, but I really wanted to get involved in Greek life. BC didn't have Greek life, and I thought it would be a good way to meet more people. And I wasn't sure if I would be able to rush as a junior. Nonetheless, you are. And you're perceived in the same way as anyone else, because you don't have that upper hand of, oh, you didn't apply for the past 2 years. No, you weren't there. So that's definitely a great experience that I recommend. In terms of classes, I would say junior transfers have to be particularly meticulous with what they take and strategize, because you do have a less amount of time to graduate on time. So I just worked quickly with my advisors. I did change my major. So there's been some difficulty with that in terms of my deadlines for graduating, but I would say that it wasn't hard to fulfill my general ed requirements. And I was very strategic with the classes that I took at BC. In order to fulfill my requirements here. You can kind of, some of my classes for my major at BC applied as gen ed requirements. So I would say to try multiple things and submit them to different departments. Shameless plug, I'm actually going to be writing an article for the student newspaper, the Daily Pennsylvanian, reflecting on my junior experience. It was the best decision that I've made in my college career so far. And I feel as though Penn is my home. And I'm sad that I only have another year to be here.
Thank you, Ryan. And then you touched a lot on clubs, so maybe we'll transition to Tyler. Tyler, can you talk about what's it like joining student organizations at Penn? What should students prepare for as a Warren student? Maybe talk about some of the finance and consulting clubs as well.
Sure, Mackenzie. Hey guys, I'm Tyler. I transferred from the United States Naval Academy and I study finance here. And yeah, so there's a bunch of ways to prepare yourself even before getting on campus. And I guess there's like 2 tips I would say for there on that end. And that's just prepare a wide net because there's so much to do on campus. We have more than 450 organizations, and that includes like civic engagement clubs, culture and identity communities, like pre-professional clubs within pre-med, finance, consulting, and a bunch of other things. And all of these have strong alumni networks. Daily newspapers, we have our own daily newspaper here, the Daily Pennsylvanian, which I read quite often. Sports on the NCAA D1 club and intramural level. I've had actually multiple friends that were able to like walk on varsity teams when that wasn't even on their mind when transferring. And also student-led performing arts, orchestras, and bands. And it was touched on before, but we have over 40 Greek life organizations that you could rush. And when you actually do get on campus, there will be so many activity fairs and late night club fairs flooding the campus. Like Locust Walk, the main walkway through Penn is just littered with like tables of students trying to promote their clubs. And it's always great to have a conversation and just shoot your shot and see what you might be interested in. And yeah, I'll talk about, I guess, my own experience with finance related clubs. At first, there was a bunch. So I was like, how are you going to manage like all these applications, talking to a bunch of people? But it was actually super manageable because Wharton Council has a centralized club application. And so you didn't have to write 1,000 essays or like keep track of thousands of dates because you reuse like your application for each one. So it's really manageable for trying to apply to, business or finance or consulting oriented clubs. And all in all, I would just say that the extracurricular activities that Penn offers are insane. Like some of my favorite memories are from them and the people that you meet in them. And you just don't be afraid to branch out and see what you like.
Yeah, that's great, Tyler. Thank you so much. So a lot of what you could do is extracurriculars, but also you can do research. So we're just going to go to Joyce, one of our co-presidents. What's the best way to get involved in research? And some students have asked in the group me so far, should I reach out to labs during the summer? What's your experience in research here at Penn?
Yeah, hi everybody. It's really nice to see everybody here. I'm Joyce. I transferred as a sophomore from NYU. I am double majoring in biology and political science, in addition to getting my submed in biology, also minoring in chem. And like with research, I'm from New York City. With research, I think that Penn is honestly one of the best schools for research opportunities because of what Amelia said before about how pre-professional this school is. So we have so many different opportunities just surrounding our campus. For example, for me, I'm doing cardiothoracic research, surgery research specifically at Penn Medicine. I'm able to do hands-on research, so wet lab research, in addition to clinical research. So I'm really, exploring every single thing that I've ever wanted to explore when it comes to pre-med. And so I think the best part about Penn is that we have so many schools that are so close to us. So we have the vet school that's literally right next to us, Penn Med, the law school is right there. So whatever you really want to do research in, you can really find opportunities in that. And that goes for also majors like political science. I have a lot of friends that are doing research in the social sciences. And I think that that's something that's really awesome. And I personally didn't start doing research until the spring semester of my sophomore year. So I would definitely say that it's not necessary to do research your first semester coming into Penn, because I know that it's very overwhelming for a lot of people. I was definitely overwhelmed, which is why I didn't even consider reaching out to people until my winter break actually. And I got a lot of responses. I think something that's really important to do is just don't hone in on one lab specifically. Absolutely. There are so many labs at Penn, and a really good resource for that is CURF. So that's the, CURF is the Center for Undergraduate Research and Fellowships. And CURF has a directory that allows you to look at what kind of research you want to do, where you want to do it, all of these different filters that allow you to see what opportunities there are at Penn, and then you can directly email those labs. And that's exactly what I did. I think I emailed about 25 labs and I got responses from about 20 of them. So that's a really good amount of labs that ended up coming back to me. And yeah, I just think it's really awesome how many resources we have. Another resource that we have is what Amelia just mentioned, the RPA program, which is the Research Peer Advisor program, where you get paired with a student who's been doing research for a little bit of time. So for me, by the time I was paired with Amelia, I had been doing research for maybe a semester, and then I had been doing research over the summer as well. And I was able to, guide all of my students a little bit in how to present themselves to these labs and the best possible way of, learning to do research in general. And so the RPA program also has a bunch of different kind of advisors. So for me, I was more focused on pre-med advising, whereas I had a lot of friends that were in the social sciences. So going back to the whole idea, I think that's something that is a really common trend in this meeting, is that Penn has so many resources, and it's so easy for you to get involved. And there are so many different ways for you to just ask questions and get the answers that you need. And I think that research is just such an important part of my time at Penn, and it's also just not something that's necessary for everybody. So if you feel pressured to do research, definitely don't feel that way, I want to say, because I have a lot of friends that also don't do research, and they're having just as fun of a time at Penn. And of course, ask any questions you have about research. It's such a fun program to be a part of when you're at Penn.
Thanks, Joyce. And then maybe you could just also touch on how feasible it is to be a double major. Some of the incoming transfers, they want to do a lot, they want to have multiple majors, but they're coming in without that first year. How easy was it for you to navigate all the requirements for both of the majors that you're pursuing?
Yeah, so I think it's a really valid question to ask. I felt like coming into Penn, I might have lost some time to do a double major. I really love political science. I really love biology. And I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to complete both majors, especially because they really don't overlap in any kind of way. I know a lot of my friends that did anthropology and biology, there's some overlap in those kinds of majors. But for me, and I think Miet as well, we have no overlap in the courses that we take. And I can guarantee you that it is possible to do it. The one thing that I will say is that you have to talk to an advisor. You can't just do the planning on your own because there are a lot of requirements within each school at Penn. We have a lot of different requirements that you need to fulfill in order to just graduate. So for me, I remember sitting down with my advisor the second that I got him, and I was like, this is what I want to do. How can I do it? And he was able to kind of lay out everything for me, explain to me the requirements for both of my majors, and ensure that, yes, there is a way to do it. And you haven't really lost any time as a transfer. And I know that some people also have questions about how to double major between different colleges. My two majors are within the college, so it was a little bit easier for me. When you're doing anything between different colleges, that would be a dual degree program. And same idea, you need to talk to an advisor. It's ever more important for you to talk to an advisor for the dual degree programs, just because there are a lot of requirements that are different between the two different schools. And I'm personally not very familiar with this. So I would definitely recommend you, if you're looking to do something between Wharton and the college, for example, to talk to your advisor when you get them, because you really have only 3 years to complete this major or these two majors. So it's important to get started really early. And additionally, just like some information about that, within your first 2 semesters at Penn, you have to complete 4 course units of each of the majors that you're trying to do. And I believe that junior transfers aren't able to do it. So that is something that is pretty important to understand. But you can also always ask your advisor. And yeah, it really boils down to that. I think everything is really possible. Just going back to my introduction, I'm also getting a chemistry minor and I'm submatting. So like possibilities are endless at Penn. Just talk to your advisor. It's so awesome here. I remember telling myself that I wasn't going to be able to submat. Submatting is getting your master's. That's something that's really cool that we offer at Penn. You can get your master's in a bunch of random different majors, I guess you could say. And for me, I love biology and I really wanted to get my master's in biology. And Neil was actually one of the advisors that really helped me with that. So it's really cool that you're able to just talk to somebody and learn about all of these new experiences that you can have. And I never thought that I was going to graduate with a master's, and it's looking like I can do that right now. So it's really, really awesome. And I think that you should definitely just ask questions about what's possible at Penn, because this is the best school ever.
Awesome. Thank you, Joyce. So kind of what Joyce touched upon is part of your trajectory here at Penn is meeting with your advisor. And that's also partly determined by what classes transfer over from your previous institution, having that foundation. So I was wondering if we can transition to Tommy maybe. And Tommy, you could talk about what the XCAT process is like. What do you do if you haven't gotten a response from the department chairs? And then maybe also touch on your experience as an international student.
Yeah, of course. Hey guys, my name is Tommy. I'm a rising junior studying international relations with a minor in legal studies and history, and I transferred from the Ohio State University. I'm from Shenzhen, China, so I'm international, and so shout out to my fellow international students out there, because I know that, you know, transferring to a different school and moving to a different city in a foreign country can definitely be a big decision and also a hassle. So in terms of transferring credits, just keep in mind that the evaluation you can see on your admissions portal is not official yet. You do need to submit formal requests through the XCAT system, which is the external credit approval tool. And on XCAT, you'll be asked to provide several pieces of information, including and potentially equivalent or similar course here at Penn, the subject and number of the course you took at your previous school, and also a syllabus and other supporting documents if available. So make sure that, you know, while you still have access to your current school system, download and keep a copy of the syllabus for each of the courses that you would like to receive a transfer credit for. And then you can look for equivalent or similar courses on the Penn course catalog. Now, this would be easier if it's courses like Intro to Microeconomics or General Chemistry, harder for upper level or more niche courses, for example, History of Medieval Medicine or, you know, Constitutionalism in 15th century Germany. And for those more niche courses, it may eventually appear on your transcript as, for example, political science transfer electives, but you will eventually get the credit for it. and it may count towards your major. It just won't show up on the Penn transcript as a course here at Penn. And after you put in the transfer request, the credit transfer request for each of the courses, you're just going to be waiting for the department to approve your requests. In my experience, most departments do approve extra requests in a pretty timely manner, but because it's the summer, it might take a while. And if you haven't heard back in a couple of weeks, you can always email the department coordinator, reach out to your advisor, and ask them to review it. Sometimes you can also try sending a request for the same course to 2 or 3 different departments, because some courses are cross-listed here if they're cross-discipline. However, at the end, you obviously only receive 1 CU for 1 course. So my suggestion is don't do that in the first. Don't do it in the beginning, but if you don't hear back in a month or so, you can always try sending the request to a different department. And my final piece of advice is that don't be afraid to reach out to your advisor, to department coordinators, even department chairs, or other transfer students who've gone through this process in the past, because transfer credits can definitely be confusing. It can be time consuming, especially if you're an incoming junior. But we've all been there, and you can always reach out to us for questions. And also, speaking of my experience as an international student, I transferred from Ohio State, which is a majority in-state population school, and it's also one of the biggest schools in America. So coming to Penn was definitely sort of a shock to me. But Penn has an amazing international student and scholars office. They help you out with your immigration documents, your visa status, et cetera, et cetera. And we also have, in my opinion, one of the most diverse student bodies in the country. So it is definitely a great place for an international student. Philly is a big city, so flying here is so much easier than flying to smaller cities. And we are 2 hours away from New York, very close to Newark, JFK, and other airports in the area. So yeah, please reach out if you have any questions about transfer credits or about visa immigration documents for international students. And welcome and congrats again.
Awesome. Thank you, Tommy. And also a reminder, you can ask questions in the chat. Neil has to leave soon, so if you have questions about advising, please put that in the chat as well. After you get your XCAT done, you have to register for classes. And so we're going to actually transition to Jake. Jake, maybe talk about your process in choosing your classes for the fall semester as an engineering student, what classes you need to get done based on what you fulfilled through your XCAT submissions.
Sure. So, hi, everyone. I'm Jake. I am from New Jersey. I transferred from the Cooper Union in New York City, and I'm majoring in chemical and biomolecular engineering. And basically, the process for building your fall schedule, it starts in the middle of June, which is basically when you're going to get an email from, if you have an advisor, it'll be from your advisor. Or if they don't have one for you yet, it'll be from someone in the advising department or from someone in your majors department, basically reaching out to you to schedule like a Zoom meeting to basically build your fall schedule. So that was what I did. I met with the undergraduate coordinator for my major. We just had a Zoom meeting, and she basically just explained like everything to me, because I went in not really knowing what I was supposed to take. They explain everything to you. They look at like kind of where you're at, like based on which courses you've already taken, which requirements you still have to do, what a typical student at Penn in your major would take in the fall semester. And she basically said like, okay, like these classes are the ones you should take. We built a schedule. I registered for all the classes right away. And that was really easy. But that's kind of your, like, just know that schedule you make, that doesn't necessarily have to be your finalized schedule for the fall. It's very normal and very easy for your schedule to change all throughout the summer and even up until just the end of add drop period, based on your wants and needs. So if you change your mind about a certain class or maybe about a certain elective, or in my case, in the middle of the summer, I started to hear back from XCAT, and I found out that I actually ended up not getting transfer credit for a certain class that I took at my old school, which is very normal, but that class was a prerequisite for a class that I registered for the fall. But as soon as I found out I didn't get credit for that, I reached out to the engineering advising office and they helped me really quickly just drop that class from my fall schedule and just register for that prerequisite class. It was really easy. So yeah, so you build it like in the middle of June, your schedule, and then that could be your finalized schedule, but it could also change.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. And then completely switching gears, we're going to talk to our other co-president, Shannon. Shannon, can you talk about Greek life here at Penn, both frats and sororities, and how you've gotten involved?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Penn. Congratulations. My name's Shannon. I'm one of the co-presidents of TSO. I'm also a senior in the School of Nursing, and I transferred from Fordham University my sophomore year. Transferring to Penn was the best decision I ever made, and I love all things transferring, all things nursing, so please feel free to reach out. So Greek life at Penn is about 25% of students participate in Greek life. I came into Penn, there was no Greek life at my previous school. I had no idea if I wanted to go for it or not. And so one of the great things about Penn is that we only do formal recruitment in the spring semester. So you have all of fall to sort of figure out if it's something that you want to try or you don't want to try. I got involved with it just because I talked to older transfers. I talked to actually the previous co-president, and I ended up being in the same sorority as her. So I talked to a lot of transfers, and then all of my roommates who are also all transfers decided to rush. So we ended up in all different places, but we all had a really great experience with it. And if you decide it's not for you, there's a ton of other ways to be involved on campus. And so for right now, I would suggest if you're interested or you're even considering it, to reach out to any of us that have experience with it. You can find out all of that information on our website, penntso.org. And you can also look at like the Office of Sorority and Fraternity Life's website, and they have different social media pages. It's definitely a really fun experience if you're interested, and please feel free to reach out about both like the formal, informal processes of rushing, because I know it's very overwhelming if you come from a school that doesn't have Greek life in it originally. So yeah, welcome to Penn, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. And so, you know, frats and sororities are one way to get involved on campus. Clubs are another. And so we're going to actually ask Joanna, our executive vice president, to talk about how she integrated herself at Penn, maybe the challenges and what she actually went through when she first got here.
Hello, everyone. So as Mackenzie so well announced, my name is Joanna. I'm currently a rising senior, studying urban studies and minoring in math, and I'm from the Bay Area in California, transferred from UC San Diego after my freshman year, and then took a gap year during COVID. And yeah, I mean, you've heard a ton of information, like logistically and otherwise, about coming to Penn. I think that it is like a daunting part of transferring, thinking about how am I going to adjust, how am I going to fit in. I feel like Penn is one of the easiest places to do that. It's ridiculously social in like stupid ways. There's a club called like the Medical Emergency Response Team. They're like student EMTs, and the people involved in MERT have like a formal at the end of the year. So seriously, like, oh, also like the Computer Science 120, SIS 120, there's like a ton of TAs for that class, and they will like grade together on Friday night and then like go out to karaoke or something, and they have like SIS 120 TA like sweatshirts. So I'd say that it's like an extremely social place, and the thing that I wanted to emphasize is that being a transfer, inherently you have a community the second that you step onto campus. My best friends are transfers. I like still live with my best friend who's a transfer. My boyfriend's a transfer. Shannon's boyfriend's a transfer. Really let these points sell you. You will find love if you transfer to Penn. But regardless, I think it's just like a very, you know, difficult like landscape of things to think about when you're deciding whether or not to leave your old school and transition into a new environment. But I do think that Penn makes it really easy with so many things to get involved with. Like Amelia said, you can always join things and then quit them later, just try it out. And overall, the reason that we all sit here and contribute our time to this cause of convincing you to transfer for free is because we love it, and we did transition, and it was totally doable and fun. So yeah, that's my answer.
Awesome. Thank you, Joanna. We have two more questions before we get into the breakout rooms. We're going to go straight to Miette. We've talked a lot about mentorship, but we're going to have one of our mentorship people really dive into what it's like. Can you talk about what mentorship events TSO does, and how do you and Ryan integrate the new transfers into the TSO community?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Miette. Welcome to Penn. I was a sophomore transfer last year from Emory University, and I'm currently double majoring in biology and cinema studies on a pre-med track. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. In regards to mentorship, one of the big parts of TSO is our mentorship program here at Penn, where we pair incoming transfers with current transfers who have been through the transfer process, spent a year at least at Penn, and can really help ground you and help you meet new people, answer your questions, academic and social, and just help you have a lot of fun on campus. Like, the best way to learn about things at Penn is really through other people. So Ryan, who you heard from before, who's a junior transfer, and we are the algorithm that Mackenzie talked about before. And if you want a mentor, you basically fill out a form that we send out, and we take time to individually pair you with people that we think you would, with one person who we think you'd really get along with. And another thing that we're looking to do here this year as well is to create little families. So if you have a specific extracurricular interest or academic interest that you really want to be a big part of your time here at Penn, we really want to pair you with current transfers and incoming transfers in smaller groups, so you're really able to get to know people. And then one of the best parts about mentorship is not only getting to know people, but really the events you get to take part in. So during your first couple weeks here at Penn, we like to host lots of events, whether they're team building, like fun little competitions, or like a trivia night, whether it's like a group bonding moment, like a cute movie night, or we all get to go out to different dinners. It's really nice having that pinpoint person who can then help you meet a bunch of other people. And at least for me, and I know a lot of my friends here in TSO, we're all really close with our mentors, and it's been such a big part of our experience. So I really encourage you to fill out that form. I'm so excited to meet you guys, and congrats again.
Awesome, thanks, Mia. And then last but not least, the one to bring it all home is Maddie. So Maddie, can you just tell the new transfers why they should live in the transfer living community, or maybe talk about other residence halls as well, even though we love the transfer living community? And then what's the process in transfers actually finding roommates to live with when they come to Penn?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Penn. My name is Maddie, and I was a sophomore transfer, so I came to Penn last year from UC Santa Barbara, but I'm originally from Philly, and I'm majoring in political science and minoring in environmental studies. And I know housing is a pretty big, complex topic, but I think I'll start off by saying that Penn has a lot of options for housing. So right off the bat, after you commit, one of the first things you can do is go onto the Penn housing website and look at all of your options and sort of get a sense of like what amenities that there are. But as a transfer, and as someone who's lived in the transfer living community last year, I love to give it like a shameless plug. So basically what it is on one of the floors in the high-rise buildings, it's a space where there's only transfers living together. And that means there's a transfer RA, and the floor lounge is a space for transfer students and things like that. So it's a really good community experience. I think a lot of us actually in here lived on the TLC or transfer living community floor last year, and it was a really, really positive experience. I think Mackenzie alluded to it earlier, like some of our favorite memories from this past year were just like late nights having conversations, baking projects, just like little impromptu floor events, hanging out together. And so that's something that's really special that we have in the transfer community at Penn, because it really allows you to like connect with people outside of like the classroom, outside of extracurriculars, and sort of keep like the tight-knit nature of the transfer community alive. But with that being said, like even if you don't live on the transfer floor, there are still lots of ways to be like involved in the transfer community. So it's by no means like the only way to do that. And I have friends who are transfers who didn't live on the floor that would come to visit all the time. So there's no cause for concern there. You can definitely still be a part of it. In terms of other housing options outside of the high rises, there are like some other choices that are there, and they all have different amenities and different perks. So like some of them have communal kitchens if you prefer that to having like your own kitchen, in your apartment, or some of them have gyms in the building. So other things that might like pique your interest, that might compel you to want to live there instead. With that being said, most transfers do live in the high rises, which are buildings that have basically like suite style or apartment style built rooms in them. So you'd have your own private bathroom, usually a private kitchen and living room, and then like single or double bedrooms for multiple students to share the bathroom and kitchen. So there are lots of good options for housing, and that's definitely something you'll see if you decide to commit. In terms of finding a roommate, basically what you can do is you're able to request one other person if you meet them, and you can ask Penn to pair you to live together. You might end up with other roommates too, that Penn would assign to you, but basically how we do roommate match is eventually there will be like a slideshow of sorts posted probably in the Facebook group and in the GroupMe, and you can add a slide sharing information about yourself, your interests, your living habits, etc. And you can reach out to people, connect with people, and figure out maybe who you'd want to live with. And then once you like settle on a potential roommate, you can request them through the housing portal, which you'll have access to later on. And you can live together in your housing when you get to Penn. Like I said, you can only request one person, so you may end up with multiple roommates if you end up in like a 3 or 4 bedroom apartment. But you'll also fill out a form in the housing portal where you indicate your living habits and preferences. And I think Penn does a really good job of matching people based on those. So all in all, obviously there's a lot to unpack there, but the transfer living community in particular was a really, really positive experience for me and so many other people. So I would highly recommend looking more into that if it's something you're interested in, and definitely keep an eye out after the commitment deadline for a like slideshow of sorts if you're interested in picking out a roommate.
Awesome, thanks, Maddie. And then David, are you there as well? I was wondering, you did such a great job summarizing the panel and the presentation last time when we did one of the information sessions. I was wondering if you could just sum up what it's like to be in TSO and being a transfer here at Penn before we get into the breakout rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's David. I'm a transfer from the University of Texas at Austin, and I studied in the business honors program. I'm a rising junior, and to really sum it all up, I think the transfer student organization here at Penn is so unique in what you get from a lot of the other top schools. So a lot of the times you're transferring into a great institution. The sort of supports, the class sizes, all of those things are very variable, and you really have to find your own sort of experiences yourselves. And so joining Penn, joining it's TSO, your guaranteed membership, the first club you're ever going to join here at Penn. It's just such a great network. I mean, if you look at all of the panelists today, all of them have extremely long resumes. I mean, prior just to get into this school, but they've really found a place here at Penn. I know Tyler's involved with the finance orgs, Mackenzie's involved with SKU, Ryan's with the DP. All of these transfers are leaders in their own sort of little niche communities, as well as through TSO and some of the greater organizations here at campus. And so I think just to summarize, a lot of the stuff we're talking about are credit transfers, XCAT, a lot of these things, a lot of the anxieties that y'all have will resolve themselves as we sort of progress on it together. And then I'd say just looking forward, just sort of thinking about what you want to major in, I guess, what classes you want to take. Those are great things to think about over the summer. And then through the breakout rooms, I really want y'all to sort of ask whatever questions you have. No question is a dumb question, really. As someone who moved from Texas, I had a lot of Texas adjacent questions just about the logistics, how many suitcases do I want to bring, or should I bring winter clothing? All those sort of questions are valid. So definitely shoot those over. Questions about majors, any of those things, PPE questions, history questions if you're a history major. I know a lot of y'all are going to switch after you take a certain class this fall, but I think that's another discussion. But yeah, I want to thank all the panelists as well. Y'all did an amazing job, especially Mackenzie for spearheading everything. He really did a really great job doing the I don't know if y'all know, but the sort of writing seminar thing is a major accomplishment. I mean, we all had to do writing sem with freshmen, and y'all doing it together is such a great opportunity for you to get, involved with your other classmates, and a great experience to get to know people in AI and bioethics and really cool course material, but just a great job overall, and really like to tip my hat to Mackenzie for that. But yeah, that's what I would add.
Awesome. Thank you, David. And so thank you all the panelists as well. And we're going to jump into the breakout rooms again. TSO is here to support your journey, and all we want to do is help you succeed here at Penn and find who you are. And so in these breakout rooms, you know, there's less people, you can be more personal with your questions, and we're here to help. So Will, take it away.
Well done, Mackenzie. Thank you to you and to all the other students, to Neil, who was super active in the chat. So now, between now and 8:20, we're going to go into breakout rooms. These will be smaller groups. And though this will be the end of tonight, I hope you think of this as really just still the beginning of a conversation. You might have some questions that you didn't have answered in the chat, or maybe you just want to say hello. That's what these breakout rooms will be for. And then we can use this to launch into more conversation in other settings. I know the GroupMe is super active. There will be more programming. And of course, if you're coming to Penn, there will be a lot of engagement in the coming months too.